Alright. Good evening, everyone. This is the regular board meeting of August 21st, 2023, here for the Board of Park District Commissioners in the Lake Bluff Park District in Lake County, Illinois. If I could ask please first for a roll call.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Here.
Commissioner Lane. Here. Commissioner Raymore. Commissioner Reeder.
Here.
Commissioner Welsh.
Here.
Commissioner Weber.
Here.
President Buell.
Here. Can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Marcia.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Lane.
Yes.
Commissioner Reeder.
Yes.
Commissioner Welsh.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
President Buell.
Yes. Next up on our agenda is a statement of visitors. This gives folks the opportunity to address the board about matters that are either pending before the board tonight or with other matters that pertain to the Park District. We ask that you keep your statement to 3 minutes. And if there's anybody in the audience who would like to make a statement, we welcome. Seeing as none. All right, and next I'll go online if there's anyone who would like to make a statement.
There are no guests on Zoom.
Thank you. All right, next up on our agenda is the consent agenda, which starts on page 10 of the board packet. The consent agenda contains minutes from 3 different meetings. The minutes of July 10th, 2023, the special committee of the whole meeting, the regular board meeting of July 17th, 2023, and the August 14th, 2023 special board meeting. This also includes the invoice schedule for ACH payables for the period of July 14th, 2023 through August 8th, 2023, and the purchase card ratification. I'll start first if anyone has any comments, changes for the 3 sets of minutes that we have included. Seeing as none, anything for the invoice schedule?
I did have a question. Probably putting you on the spot, but do we have any idea what our legal expenses are year-to-date versus budget?
They were following the budget up until July.
Until this last one from
Exactly.
10,881. Okay.
Previous to that, they were averaging anywhere from about 1,200 to 1,500.
Okay. And that schedule, are we taking the budget and then just dividing that by 12 to get what we're looking for, kind of like a
For legal, yeah, and for legal fees, yes.
Okay. So we're slightly ahead, but not like
Correct.
dramatically ahead, barring some unforeseen circumstances. Thank you.
And the purchase card ratification of the expenses. Any questions? Okay. Seeing as none, can I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda, items A through E?
So moved.
Second. Roll call?
Commissioner Greenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Lane. Yes. Commissioner Reeder.
Yes.
Commissioner Welsh. Yes. Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
President Buell.
Yes. Next up on our agenda, finance. We have our month-to-date and year-to-date financial report summary by Superintendent Wolf-Pettenhouse.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners, President Beeler, Vice President Walsh, and Treasurer Weber. The first 5 months, January through May, are the lean months. June was the first not-lean month where revenues far exceeded expenses. And this is also true for July, in that revenues exceeded expenses, but not by as much as they did in June. This was in due part, or in large part, to higher than budgeted program revenues, property tax receipts, as well as the interest being generated by the Park District's max savings account. Expenses fell below budget, partly or mainly due to contractual services expenses. Commodities expenses came in over budget by a fair amount, about $8,000, which I am looking into to see if that was just due to increased program usage and summer camps, Personnel expenses, I am somewhat happy to say, came in slightly over budget by about $6,000. So when we were fully staffed for July, one of the busiest months that we have, I'm pleased to say that we came in really at budget, within 2% of that. And of course, that personnel expense will go down as the seasonals decrease, and depending on whether or not there'll be any vacancies and savings due to that. Year-to-date revenues are fairly higher than budgeted, and year-to-date expenses are still much lower than budgeted. This will change again in September when the capital expense for the roof starts, as well as some additional debt service payments at the end of the year. However, I'm keeping a close eye on everything, given the discussions about future capital expenses in relation to aquatics and beach and everything else, because we will discuss that later. So I move, or ask the board to accept the financial reports as presented.
Well, just point of clarification here. When you talk about the, I guess, commodity prices and contractual services, are you referencing page 35, just talking about the operating expenses?
Yes.
So, and those are X, obviously, capital improvements and debt service as well. So if I'm getting the full, just kind of like operating picture of the park district as a whole, we are still operating within our budget pretty
Yes.
substantially.
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you.
And commodities, I mean, given the number that is and the percentage, that could be inflation just for the stuff needed, right?
It could as well, but, and I haven't looked into that closely yet, which I will, but it's also due to, the program numbers, whether it's, ARC, I'm blanking on programs.
Preschool numbers were higher, after-school care numbers were higher.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so program supplies did go up during the school year as well as the summer.
And the roof expense, we're slated for that as to September?
September 15th? 12th?
September 12th? We pay that lump sum, or we pay that staggered?
There will be an initial payment, I don't know how much, maybe up to about 50%, and then the remaining, after all the work is done and the punch list or checklist items are completed.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Could I have a motion, please, to accept the financial reports as presented?
So,
Second?
Roll call, please, Marcia.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Lane.
yes.
Commissioner Reader.
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
President Wheeler.
Yes. Next up on our agenda tonight is the verbal communications, or are the verbal communications, I should say. I'm up first for the President's report. First up, a welcome to, because we didn't include you in the roll call, but we have our two Efficiency Committee members with us tonight. Chris Mahalit, did I pronounce it? Mahal, thank you, and Kathy Blahanka. So I'd like to welcome both of them, and we'll have this as part of our agenda for later this evening. Just very quickly, I want to say thank you for the very thoughtful discussion that we had this past week with our special, past week, I should say, with the special meeting. While I can't go into great detail about what was discussed, again, the topic was pickleball and how we are going to continue to work with the village, hopefully to come to some resolution as to how to address what the village has brought before us with their ordinances, with the Rio, as well as with the building permit. I think the board made a very good decision when speaking with council, especially presented with the fact that there could be litigation brought. We could bring litigation, the attendant expenses for that, as well as how to work with the community with those kinds of possibilities. So thank you to the board for making that decision to go forward on a non-litigation basis and to work cooperatively. Next up, we have a staff report.
Thank you. Just briefly touch on a few things. One, I just wanted to mention that the foundation is planning an event in September. The event will be called Jazz and Jokes. It held on the tent pad at the golf course. Similar setup to the Fireman's Ball. So if you've attended that, you know that they have a 60 by 60 tent, a small stage, a lot of seating. So the Jazz and Jokes should be a quartet with playing some jazz music, but the main focus on two female comedians that are very popular who will be there, and this will be a fundraiser for the foundation. So it's September 16th at 6:30. And tickets, it's the first time we're trying it, but we're selling them through Eventbrite. So it's a ticketed event. You can buy the tickets online you go to our website. There'll be a link to do that, or the foundation website. So we're pretty excited about that. It's going to be a fun event, and we'll have some food vendors out there. Hopefully the brewery or Dorado reaching out to a few different ones to be involved. So I think that's going to be a really nice event. Speaking of other events, just recently, last night was another Bluff concert at the golf course. You saw me in the pictures. Really incredible turnout, nice crowd, even as warm as it was. Really good crowd there. And then a week prior, we had the Bluff concert and the night on the range. And even though it was a pretty dicey forecast, we still had a lot of people show up for that event. And kind of the combined event, and it worked out really well. So a couple of successful events here for the Park District held at the golf course. With that, I was going to turn it over. Jim, did you have any highlights from the summer, or are you going to do that at the next meeting?
No, basically I would say for the summer, we're coming to an end. Obviously, Labor Day is coming up here soon. That'll be our last weekend with lifeguards at the pool and the beach. And then we'll be back to our regular closure at the beach, and we'll be starting to shut down the pool. We do start Wednesday our after-school care, and preschool starts after Labor Day. So we are switching from summer programming to school year-round programming. Any questions?
No, I have to say, given all of our concern and all of our discussions about the beach access road closure, it seemed to have turned out pretty good. She said, asked with a question mark at the end.
We got 2 more weekends. Let's ask that question after
caveat, okay. But I think the communication to the community was great. I think people, you trained your staff very, very well to anticipate those kinds of questions that everyone was going to get, and I think the community responded well.
Thank you.
So that was very good.
Signage and the placement of staff as well is huge, like you literally can't walk down the hill because there's people there. It's really smart.
And we did this year, so in the past, we shrinked the hours down to just the weekends, like this past week. We wouldn't have staff there at all during the day. We have no lifeguards, we're losing a lot back to school, and so we're just open on the weekends. We did keep those attendants at the midway, just as a safety precaution to help with the crossing there. So there was some added expense for the Park District to do that we wouldn't normally do, but felt that was pretty important during this project.
As a community member, I also appreciate sort of the updates that we'll bring as a superintendent and sessions, so kudos to those experiences.
One quick question. On page 8, it's just kind of related to the COBOL update. Since memberships would place a temporary hold and members are receiving credit, do we have any type of indication as to the financial impact of that?
When we looked in July, we were doing over 60 refunds, and along with putting memberships on hold, the cost to the Park District at that time was about $4,500. For August, so far, we're maybe at about $3,400 for August, and some of the cancellations. it's hard to say that all of that's attributable, to say the situation that's ongoing with the pickleball court. Some of that may just be August, low enrollment. We might have canceled one or two of those classes anyway. So I'm sure some of it is attributed to kind of the, what's going on with the pickleball, but some is, might not be.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anything else from staff?
No,
No?
that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. We don't have our attorney with us tonight, so no attorney report. Anything from the Finance Administration and Future Planning Committee?
I received word from a candidate on Saturday that had accepted the position to join our Finance and Future Planning Committee. That did not make the cut for the agenda, so we will have to formally, I guess, present that person.
There is an item on here.
There is?
The agenda, yeah, under new business, the last item.
We just don't have an insert for
Did
that.
not have it, yeah.
Huh.
Should we hold it over?
Then I'll hold
until-
it. I'll wait.
You'll wait?
I'll wait.
We'll wait then, okay. Thank you. Parks and Beach Committee, we did have a meeting. Sue Raymore will continue to work with Cliff Miller with regard to our ravine plan. It wasn't before our committee, but just a quick update, it was the sand replenishment project, and I'm kind of looking at Noah for this too. I understand that that's not going to go forward. The testing of the sand that would have come from Waukegan is not going to be worthwhile to bring down to Lake Bluff and the other communities that were part of the testing. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
1122 project is now on a long-term hold.
It's on hold.
Well, not even whole, we're sending a letter that's saying for the 4 communities that due to the results of the recent test with the positive finding of asbestos, that we won't be moving forward with the project for our beach, and as well as, the other 3 communities that are involved.
The other items that we have from Parks and Beach Committee are going to be, again, discussed for any action. Is there anything else that we have?
I'm just trying to think, I don't think so. I think this was everything.
Yeah, okay. Facilities and programs.
We did have the meeting on July 26th, and then that was discussed further at the last special meeting last week, where we had pickleball with discussion, and we had great input from community members, and that's where we came up with the solution to finding a balance with the temporary hours and moving forward with mitigation options.
Okay. Golf committee?
Golf committee will be meeting in September to start discussing new programs for next year. We had, I think, very successful programs this year, as John mentioned. The second night on the range really went well in spite of pretty crummy weather. And we have one program left in terms of instruction. There's a junior instructional program in September. I don't know how the sign up for that is up to date, Jim.
I didn't look today, but I did look last Friday. It was at 8 last Friday.
So hopefully now we get more kids now that school's back in, and so we'll see how that goes. And you all got the results of the financial results for the golf course through August 15th. And so that looks great, and I played today, and it was really nice, except it's too crowded. You got to get rid of some of the people, it's just...
I agree, I played Saturday evening and same thing.
Rounds are up despite a wet spring. We have a lot of
So-
people turning out.
That's going well. So we'll be discussing next year if we want to add some programs and refine some things and see what we can do for next year for the golf course.
One thing I would just add on to that, so the rounds are up about 2,600 over the same period through August 15th of last year, and the revenue is up by 192,000 over that same period. But more importantly, we're at 960,000. Last year we were at 770,000 at this point. So our take, our, portion kicks in over 800,000, that 10% this year is part of that agreement, because of the renegotiated agreement last year. It goes to 12% this year, so the fact that we're already over 800,000 at 960 is going to be also a positive revenue for the park district.
We're getting our checks regularly, right, Will?
Yeah, I don't even need to ask, they send them.
Yeah, they do.
Wonderful. Okay. And there's a burger night coming up.
There's a burger night this Friday, there's Friday night burger night, and golf fishing, it's a golf fishing program, but they'll have their crew out, and they're having a band. I don't know if it's the same, if it's John Charles Sons band, but they're actually paying their money, which this high school band is just happy to be playing for people. But golf fishing is paying them, and that was a fun night the last time. And nice time to go out and get a real sandwich, and listen to some music, and enjoy the golf course and the weather and the neighbors.
A lot of people come out for that, so it's good. Friends of Lake Bluff Parks.
All right, just two things tonight, is to reiterate what John had mentioned before about the Jazz and Jokes event coming up on September 16th. It's from 6:30 to 8:30, so it's just, actually 5:30 to 8:30. But performers start at 6:30. And it's just as John said, it's a jazz quartet with a couple of, I think, really good comedians intertwined. And I think they're going to do some Lake Bluff humor, which is always fun. Tickets are $35 each, which includes one drink, and there are also sponsorship opportunities. So at the $250, $500, and $1,000 level. So we'll circulate, I don't think the information on this is in the packet, so we'll circulate that out to everyone. But mark your calendars if you can attend that. And then the second thing is that we are looking for 3 new board members on the Friends of Lake Bluff Parks Committee. So if you know of anyone who would be a good addition to the board, that would be wonderful.
So I know you said committee, it's the Friends of Lake Bluff Parks Foundation.
So foundation,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, so the foundation, and I think we would also maybe be looking at some of the folks, because I know we got a lot of applications for the finance committee. So we might be looking at some of the folks that applied for that to see if they have interest or skill set in wanting to participate on the foundation as well. So that's it.
Thank you. Sue is not with us tonight, so no report. Any other comments from commissioners? All right. Next up for our new business and action items, we have the Government Efficiency Committee update and discussion. Thank you both for being with us tonight. The Government Efficiency Committee, and that's page 37 in everyone's packet. As we said before, this is a new requirement that asks local governments that levy annual tax, including park districts, forest preserves, conservation districts, to form a committee, to study local government efficiencies and to prepare a report at the end of an 18-month period to submit to the board. So we have our 2 elected committee members. There will be a requirement to attend at least 3 board meetings. I guess we can count tonight as one of them, but we'll certainly have more after this. But I will provide you as well, there's information about the efficiency committee, but in looking at a sample report that will kind of be our study guide for what to look at. Here are the areas that they've recommended that the efficiency committee looks at. One is an overview of all of our statutes, ordinances, and rules. Under the Park District committees, that would be with Scott Weber, with the Finance Administration and Future Planning Committee, as well as our local government rules as well. The other area that we looked at is shared partnerships, and we have shared partnerships with see folks there from the Baseball Association. We have a shared partnership with Labola. We have a shared partnership with, thank you, with the Yacht Club. So we have many community organizations that we have memorandums of understanding that we work with together, and so it's looking at how we work with them and what could be, and I guess part of the study as well is to look at what could be improved. So how does this work? How well have we been able to operate under these agreements? What could be tweaked? What could be improved in the future? Another area that we look at is transparency to the community. What do we do? What policies do we have in place to make sure that we effectively communicate with constituents, with community members? How do we avail ourselves to the community and make sure that we follow Open Meetings Act, follow all the rules that we have in place. The other area which I found interesting is to look at awards in areas of distinction. That's another part of the committee requirements, so we'll take a look at that as well. And the last thing are services. How do we partner? How do we look at other community organizations to provide services not just to the Park District, but to other organizations? And also, how do we provide services in the most cost-effective way possible? So, in starting off with that, probably the first thing we could have you do is start attending some of the committee meetings to see how those are run. And again, I'm going to look over at Scott because that would probably be one of the best ways for you to start to go through how we run our budgets, and I'll look to Wolf as well on that, how we run our budgets, how we organize ourselves, and what we can do in that area to work more efficiently. Is there anything else that I needed to?
No, I think you're done.
Okay. So,
In the interest of efficiency for all of us, how much time will this endeavor take? Thank you for asking.
What we would hope with this is, because I find it interesting that they only require 3 meetings for the entire board as well as the 2 committee members for this. So
3 meetings outside of regular.
no, 3 meetings and 2, yeah, as part of our regular meeting. So I think probably the best thing to do, especially because there are 2 of you, you're added on to this, we probably would have to have another open meeting in order to be able to have further discussion on this. So maybe another special meeting after this to be able to talk more about how we can best organize this.
The final report's due December 5th of 2024.
Yeah, so we've got some time to be able to do this. Okay. But I'm sure once you get the budgets, you'll want to dive in, knowing Kathy and her ability to look at those things. Chris is speaking to him as well. I know that it's an area that both of you are very interested in. And being able to look at those kinds of areas as well as how we work with our other agency partners in this area. Any comments from the 2 of you or anything?
There's one thing that could be beneficial is that the entities, just a little meetings, perhaps people will make the current policies and procedures.
Okay. Do that. All right. Thank you both. Next up, we have the Golf Visions License Agreement negotiations. And what I will do, I believe, is turn this over to Paul Greenfield, who is also chair of the golf committee.
Just to review, I think we're all familiar on the board with the issue of the amendment that we signed with Golf Visions last year. But to go quickly over some of the history, the purpose of the amendment, we really looked at in 2021, the old iteration of the golf committee looked at some of what we thought were shortcomings in the original contract with Gulf Vision, which required the Park District to pay for capital investments in the golf course. So in mid-2021, we started discussions with Gulf Vision, and when I say we, it was John Beeler and staff leading the discussions. Emily and I took part in those discussions as well. To rectify that situation, and Gulf Vision was very understandable about it. They accepted the proposal that the Park District be compensated more in order that we could pay for the capital investments that are needed in the golf course. So as you all know, we went through various negotiations with them. We came up with a final resolution, which the board approved. That resolution gives us over the final 8 years of the term, the final 3 years of the original contract, plus the 5-year extension that we signed, fixed payments of $330,000. And then we have a larger revenue sharing from Gulf Vision, and just extrapolating what the current numbers are, that should give us another $230,000 in revenue sharing. So we should be bringing in additional to what we would have been bringing in anyway under the contract, 10%. We're 10% over $800,000. Revenue sharing, but we're bringing in something around $560,000. So when we look at capital expenses for the golf course, this year we've had some additional money, which we've agreed, and this is all staff recommendation, to work on tree work that needs to be done on the course, for example. So we anticipate that all the capital investment needs of the golf course should be covered by, from a cost point of view, should be covered by the amended contract. And total revenue, if I have my figures right, total revenue to the Park District over the 10 years, the initial 5-year term plus the new 5-year term, the extended 5-year term, will come to around $1.1 million. And this, of course, is with no risk to the operational expenses of the golf course. We included these 3 sections, 7, 8, and 9, to accommodate the proposals that were being floated at the time regarding wetland, stormwater management, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to go too much into that for obvious reasons. The sections, we had no specific proposals for this, so the 3 sections were very loosely worded. And they had to be. There was nothing defined. There was no defined project that we could relate to in the agreement. And that led to ambiguities and uncertainties in the language. And we're trying to eliminate those ambiguities and uncertainties by removing those sections. They relate specifically to land use, and I think we're all pretty sensitive about the issue of land use now with the Park District, and the possibility that the contract with Gulf Vision could be terminated without cause through what I would call insincere negotiations. The stormwater management project is no longer meaningful to us. Section 9 expired last December 1st. The issue of wetlands doesn't exist anymore. It clearly did not work out or did not present itself as an alternative that made any sense. And that's before the recent Supreme Court decision, which throws wetlands up in the air. And in terms of stormwater management, stormwater SMC is doing its project. It got its grant through FEMA with another location for the stormwater storage, and the golf course is not being considered. Obviously, if we find a stormwater project in the future that has a benefit to the park district, and has a benefit to the golf course, then nothing prevents us from going back to Golf Vision and asking them to modify the agreement in some way to take into account such a project. And Golf Vision has shown itself to be very accommodating in this regard. So there really should not be any problem in doing it if it's needed. Golf Vision showed real goodwill in allowing the sections to be included. And I think it's important, and the golf committee thought it was important, that we show the same goodwill and now eliminate these clauses, which are no longer necessary, but remain there and remain with certain liabilities to the operation. And, I think one of the things, when we look at the operation of the golf course this year, and everything Golf Visions has done for the golf course, and I've got a list here. We have the burger nights, we have the night on the range events, which they've been very accommodating, set up their grill, selling discounted food, helping in every way possible. And John, I see you shaking your head in agreement, but they've been very accommodating, very cooperative in every sense. They're hosting these new junior golf classes. They get no benefit out of those whatsoever. They worked with us regarding Bluffania, accommodating towards Bluffania. They bought things that they didn't need to do. They bought new mats for the driving range. They bought our golf carts, and have purchased new carts. Perhaps in my lifetime they'll actually arrive. Things like putting window treatments in the clubhouse, making the clubhouse look better, improving the food service, really working closely with us and working with staff, working with the golf committee to improve the operations of the golf course. And I think we see that in the performance of the golf course. If people didn't like playing there, they didn't like going to the golf course, we wouldn't be getting the numbers that we're getting. It's just that simple. So they're showing an effort, and they're showing the goodwill, and we believe that we should show the same goodwill, clean up the contract, make it a contract that we can go forward with if the board decides to go forward with the contract at its next renewal period, and take these out. I will also say that Jennifer and I ran this by Scott Puma, and he had no problem doing this. So that is the reason why we are asking to have these sections removed from the First Amendment. Any questions?
I'm just going to add this, and again, looking in these two provisions, is Paul just said, in the contract, it's page 45 of the packet, page 4 of the contract, 9.15 is moot. There was a December 1st, 2022 date on that, so that section really is not applicable anymore. On section 8, which is the new 9.14, the temporary suspension, section 7, which is the new section 9.13, the verbiage that can be concerning is may terminate. Either party may terminate at any time, which would mean that Golf Visions could come in and terminate the contract. There could be pressure to have the contract terminated. And so those, as Paul said, the phrasing was put in because of where we were at the time with not having certainty about the continued usage of the golf course as a golf course or changing it to some other land usage. So this was deliberately left to have different interpretations. But now that we have more awareness of land usage and making sure that we don't have, let me rephrase that, making sure that we as a park district board have the ability to control how we use our land. So that's why those words may terminate at any time are of concern. Anyone have any questions about this? No? Okay. All right, so this would be a motion then to have, oh, please.
I'll move to renegotiate the First Amendment of the license agreement with Golf Visions, removing sections 7, 8, and 9, and authorize President Wheeler to sign the amended agreement.
Second.
We have roll call on this, please, Marcia.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Reader.
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
President Wheeler.
Yes. Next up on our agenda is the West Park Ball Field naming. Folks, please give me just a little time to kind of read into this. We do not have a policy as a park district on how to commemorate when someone who has been a staff member, a commissioner, a longtime resident who was given to the park district. We don't have a policy as to how to commemorate that individual. This has been a summer where we've lost a commissioner, from some time ago at 90 years of age. We lost a pool manager who dedicated, I believe, over 2 decades of her life to the park district. She was in her 80s when she passed, and we lost a young man in our community at 20 years of age who was our sailing instructor leading that program and also gave back as to the park district as well with his service here. If you're a grandparent, a parent, a child, if you've given to the park district of hours and time, volunteer, whatever you've done, it's very difficult to put a measurement on that because it's from the heart as to what you've done, and your dedication to the park district is something that we believe as a board should be recognized in some way. We've had the Lake Bluff Youth Baseball Association reach out to us because of Zach Porter's passing on May 24th, 2023 of this year. And they had asked if we could name a baseball field after Zach. I spent a little time this weekend talking to our village historian, Kathy O'Hara, because we have 6 baseball fields. 4 of them are named. From those 4 fields, she really pulled out a lot of interesting information. Rosenthal Field was named for Martin Rosenthal. He was on the school board. He had 3 sons. He coached baseball. He and his wife and another couple were coming out of a restaurant, and he was killed by a drunk driver. And the community decided at that time to name that field after Martin Rosenthal. The David W. Quaid Field, which is in Malden Park. David was killed right outside of when he came out of college. He was in a car accident. She said that he lived for about a week or so. It was a very traumatic time for the community. She talked about votive candles being lit through the town to commemorate what was happening with the Quaid family. He was a baseball player as well, and so that field was named for him. Bob Troyer, for Troyer Field in Artesian. Field was named while he was still alive. He had 4 boys. He was a Lake Forest College professor in mathematics, and he coached baseball for years. And so that field was named after him to commemorate for his years of service to the community and to baseball. Finally, we have Wyshensky Field. This was named for Floyd Wyshensky, who said, Kathy said, actually hired her. He was a superintendent of the school, started off as a 7th grade teacher. His wife Helen grew up in Lake Bluff. Again, he raised children in the community. His son played baseball, and he was also a coach who gave time, who gave energy back to youth baseball. So this field was named for him when he was still with us. So getting that kind of background as to how we've named the baseball fields in the past, I think for me gives a different resonance as to why and how we've been recognizing people to be able to name these fields. So in your packet tonight, you do have a letter that was brought to us by the Youth Baseball Association requesting that a field be named for Zach, that he played baseball from age of 7 through 14U travel. He was a T-ball instructor, he was an umpire, a travel coach, and he obviously developed a lot of friends, made a lot of contacts in the community with the people that he played with and the people that he coached. So in giving that and came to the Parks and Beach Committee, there was the agreement, the consensus to bring forward to the board for naming the field. Or is that board? Now again, we have 2 fields out there. I don't know specifically which one we'd be looking at, but
Jennifer, thanks for that. As somebody whose son and now daughter are involved in baseball and softball in the community through the Lake Bluff Baseball Association and maybe Softball Association now, I didn't know any of the backstory. I just know, we have to meet at Quaid or Wyshensky at such a time. So it's more meaningful now to hear those stories associated with those names, and I fully support naming the field.
any discussion from anyone on the board?
I would only just clarify that this conversation was going on with the youth baseball and also brought forward by one of our community members, Rob Davis, who's here tonight, if you have any questions, who initially met with staff, with Jim and I, talked about the idea of this, and it's a kind of a difficult conversation because it's too soon to talk about it. It's stuff to talk about, but I think that it's appropriate, and the idea has a lot of very good merit. So I think staff is happy to do whatever the board wishes to do. But I know you have 2 people. You have the past president of youth baseball here tonight, as well as Rob Davis. So either here, Doug, or here, if you have any questions for them.
So I loved hearing the stories as well, and I knew snippets of all of them, but I think that draws another question. Should we also maybe have plaques of, we have fields named, but, it would be nice for everyone to read this about the fields. If we're going to go do this for another field, could we put a story about Zach, at the field? Why not? And for all of the fields, because people want to know this, it's history.
In talking to Kathy, and she did say that the History Museum will be working with us to celebrate our 100. These are obviously the stories that we need to know. You're right. You go to the field and you say, I'm going to go to Quaid, I'm going to go to Rosenthal, and you don't know why. So I think that's a
Jennifer, I wonder if this isn't an opportunity for the board to first look at how we name and what criteria we use to name our facilities after people. And we don't, as you said, we don't have that policy. So as it is, we would now get things on an ad hoc basis and make a determination But I think, at the end of the day, these are public facilities. The community owns these baseball fields and all of the other facilities that we have. And I think having a policy is a way for us to explain to the community why we're doing what we're doing.
So we talked about this in our meeting as well, and so that's one of the reasons we asked for the letter from Lake Bluff Baseball, because we wanted to, they're one of our, shared partnerships, and, we felt like if there's two entities, if it's the Park District and, Lake Bluff Baseball, and, coming together, making this request, it's not like a community member just brought us a request, hey, can you name this park bench or whatever it is after, someone because of the X. And so this was a bigger thing, so that's why we had asked for that, because we thought that could set some kind of, precedent.
No, I understand all that, Vicki. I think having a policy is something we should do regardless. And I'm not specifically related to this decision, perhaps, or what it ultimately might be. But I think having a policy and setting that policy and then being able to go back and say, all right, this is why we are naming this field after this person or that person or whatever. I think it's important that we show that we're able to show the community that we have, we talk about being transparent and being open with the community. And I think this is another opportunity for us to say, this is why we're doing what we're doing with that. And we're not just, okay, whatever the reasons there might be. This is not the only time this has happened. It's not the only time it's going to happen.
I think the community would be okay with we're doing this because it's the right thing to do.
I would completely agree with that and completely support naming the ball field after Zach Porter.
I also spoke with John Kirsch, who is the president of Friends. I understand that he's been in contact with the Porter family, just to make sure that they've established their foundation for Zach. This is not going to conflict or be different or be in any way run into what the family foundation is doing. And he and I spoke as well because when we had our joint meeting with the Friends, that was one of the things that was brought up as to naming rights and so forth. That has not been developed yet by the Friends board in terms of potential naming, especially with fundraising, but that's one of the things that they will continue to do. And obviously work with us as a board to do that.
I agree with Nikki. I think it's bigger than just one person. Having the Bluff Association come to the board requesting this is a community request. It's not a single request, and so I agree with the committee's idea.
So there are some representatives here from the baseball. Is there anything you'd like to add?
We support the field or whatever is appropriate. I understand policy is not practical. I think it's a bigger policy right now. This is something that we should move forward.
May I have a motion to approve naming a West Park ball field for Zach Porter? So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Greenfield,
Abstain?
Commissioner Lane,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Commissioner Welch,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Taylor.
Yes. Next are the West Park ball field improvements. This was also brought up at our last Parks and Beach meeting. John, I'm sorry, I don't have a.
Nothing in the packet for that.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing in the packet. I can touch on that briefly, and Mr. Cassidy also said he can answer some questions if there's any additional questions. We're kind of early in the talk with the Youth Baseball Association about doing some work at West Park. So primarily drainage improvements over there, and putting those ditches actually underground and possibly widening the road there to allow for parallel parking, but then to do some sort of a renovation yet. They're still kind of working through what the interest would be and the need is for those fields, and whether it's renovating 2 larger fields to accommodate older players or 3 fields for the younger players. And again, crowding the fields and improving the drainage. And so it's looking like it's possibly a 2025 project where they would be, allow more time to pursue grants such as the 319 grant with SMC for the drainage, possible OSLAB or other grants. I think Noah and I were talking earlier, I think with the MOU with youth baseball, the Park District is paying 20% of the field improvements. If that's, anyway, that's what it has been in the past for the agreement. So that's just kind of a gist of I guess the project, unless Doug, you want to add anything else to it?
Sure, I'll we came over the last probably 7 years, invested a lot into the fields, mostly relaying actually every diamond that we have in the footprint. Those was always our big project that we barely got through because of COVID. We needed our big funds to get through it, but ultimately, and that one actually we funded 100% because of the prevailing wage factors. But when all said and done, it's 80-20 split. I think the vision, and I call it vision because we are really things that was to really develop West into a mini or extension of what our teaching that we have here on the east side. We are investing in building the girls' softball right now. We're excited about that, and the community's excited about it. Our numbers were bigger this year than we ever known, at least in my tenure, which has been well over 10 years. So we just intend to continue to invest in these fields, and we feel like West is a value asset that we need to improve, and we look forward to the partnership that we work on that. If you guys have any questions about the scope of it or what we're intending, we still have a lot of planning and stratification on it, but all set, like I feel like we're pretty focused on.
I understand 68 years you've been in the community?
Yes, not me personally.
Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out that way. Well, thank you for your continued partnership with the Park District.
We appreciate the partnership.
All right, next up we have, okay, so again, that'll just continue, we'll work with that in Parks and Beach. Next up on our agenda, the Oslick Grant Pool renovation. You'll find in your packet on page 49, the public meeting notice that we have. It will be this Wednesday, predicted to be a very warm day, so we will have hopefully a lot of people coming out for a last opportunity to use the pool. The meeting will be here in the community room from 5 to 6:30. We will also have community input, I'm looking for the word, not a survey, but it's a community input sheet to be able to have people fill those out and talk about what they would like about the pool and some additional amenities that we could add to the pool. Again, the purpose of this is that we are applying for an OSLAB grant. We have funding to be able to continue with pool maintenance and pool repairs. However, the application for this grant would help subsidize the funds that we have already allocated to be able to do this. In filling out the grant, The things that we've learned as a board are we have to have a good element to really get their interest to say, why is this worthwhile funding? So we've looked at adding some amenities possibly to the concession area for sunshade, for some concrete bags, concrete ping pong, something that we could add there as another plus for the community, but we need the community input in order to be able to complete the grant application. Okay, so
Can I ask, how is this meeting going to go? What's the format of this meeting?
So that's a good question. We will have a principal from Upland Design that's here, a landscape architect will be basically doing a presentation. So it won't really be run like a normal board meeting as much as it's kind of opening it up, sort of this presentation. We'll also have Ray Lee, who's the pool architect, who's been involved with some of our other projects, who will also be on hand to answer some of the technical questions or go over some of the technical information, like the recent concrete testing that was completed. And so,
whiteboard, like writing down people's.
yeah, we'll have presentation boards,
Okay.
you know, kind of showing the layout, and so we'll just be talking about, this is a fairly narrow scope because we're not doing a full renovation.
Okay.
It's pretty narrow, you know, we're replacing certain systems, you know, fixing concrete and then putting a liner, fixing the pipes, and then new concrete just around the perimeter of the pool. In a very, it's pretty narrow, so there's not, that's why if we call it survey, it's pretty focused and narrow because there's just not a lot of room for other things in this project. So it's just kind of a presentation of what's needed, you know, for repairs to the pool. We're going to have, President Beeler mentioned it's going to be a warm night, so we're hoping that the busy pool will be able to, and Paul, you don't have to wear your swimsuit to this meeting. You were shaking your head no earlier. But we're going to see if we can get some of the people that are coming into the pool to come down here and to get some input because they're users of the pool and can provide some valuable input hopefully for us, or at least fill out the survey. And then there's the information, anything gathered from the meeting is used in the final grant application.
Can we send a survey in advance?
yes, I will. Going to tweak a little and then I'll send it out.
I feel like this is more, like the way it's described is more, makes it sound more open than what is actually happening. I don't know if there's a way to guide this a little bit more, the messaging, because I feel like this is like, bring your ideas. You know, like that's what I was, wondering the format, if it's, because that's what this message is like to me. We want your valuable input.
Yeah, because we have already decided at the board, we've approved to do the smaller scale renovation, which is repairing,
That's what I thought.
And then, the question, this survey really is focusing on like the smaller, aspects of the green space or, not like shade structures and, if you want to see some games out there, smaller.
Yeah, so the green space stuff.
Yeah, so more of it, because we're just, again, we voted already to do the smaller scale renovation, so we're not changing that. That's what, but we're focusing on that, like, is there anything that we can, that you want to share that, with this more focus on the concession dining area?
Right. So it wasn't like a question about the pavilion or a gazebo. So if you're looking at, just like a 32-foot, hexagon metal structure, concrete floor with any amenities added to it, you're at about $300,000 for that one piece. And this is, the total grant, the maximum amount allowed is $600,000. So it doesn't make sense to add a $300,000 component to get a $600,000 grant. So that might be something to look for, community sponsor type thing for a family entertainment area or something we add later. But, for this project, it wouldn't probably fit in the budget. Okay. So that would be smaller things, improvements at the concession area with new, maybe some more shade and benches and some games that were mentioned and things like that for some recreation components.
Yeah, because staff has told us that the structures, like the dining structures, need to be repaired. They're the originals, is that correct? The cabanas are the originals, and so then that's what we're gonna focus, pretty much the change on getting the input of what people would like to see that as. How does that look like? Do you want
I
to?
wonder if we want to say these things out here, though, like, you know, we want your input on the shade structures, we want your input on, you know, just put the things all over, we want your input on, so people don't think it's like, we want your input on whether we should put a climbing wall in the deep end. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that, I think people are gonna take this to,
Please, let's tweak it, because
Yeah.
with all deference to Michael, because he knows this pool inside and out, this is not sexy. This is the
right.
nuts and bolts and the concrete.
This is
and
keeping it
the-
right. This is making sure we don't
Filter
close the
room.
pool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is to make sure a 50-year-old pool
Yes.
is in operation. And the only visible things that the community can get involved in is what's happening with the concession area. So.
And you bring up a good point. That was done in 2009, you know, when they were looking at the referendum. It was, they had a focus group and community meetings and opened it up. And
Yeah.
everybody wanted everything, so they ended up with, you know, zero edge entry or, you know, slides or all of these different things. A water park with a $10.2 million price tag, and then it, you know, failed horribly in the referendum. So we don't, so that's a good point. We don't want to repeat that.
Here's what we need your input with. We need your input.
We could certainly tweak the messaging a little bit on our post
Yeah, it's
to
a good idea.
indicate that.
You're going to be there, Emily, but you're the only commissioner there, or can there be two? There can be.
It's an open meeting, so we can have more than one.
Yeah, it's posted as a regular board meeting, a special.
Okay.
A special board meeting.
So everybody should come.
Yeah.
If they can.
It's on my calendar, so.
So you need four, in fact.
You do need a quorum.
Okay, I'm coming.
Okay. I'll be there. Okay, good, so. We're
John
looking
said I
forward
can't
to.
come on meetings, it's on the.
You're not gonna. We'll get you a floaty, okay?
I agree.
Electrical panel upgrading to accommodate the rechargeable blowers. As we've all discussed before, we have been moving ahead in advance of what the village has given us as an allowance of time to replace our gas-powered blowers for electric blowers, but with that comes the need to increase our electrical panel. So, do I turn this over to you?
Yeah, well,
Noah?
actually, I'll let Noah walk through kind of the history of where we're at and where we're going.
So yes, as mentioned, the village has mandated that we move over to electrical backpack motors for summertime use from May 15th to September. The park district typically has had 4 gas-powered backpack motors in our fleet that we use for maintenance throughout the park system to go with the park motors that are going out and line trim. The other 2 have been used for putting up kind of sports if we get a call for the rainstorm or for the leaves or clean up the parking lot, whatever needs arise to do that. We opted to only buy 2 at this time, a backpack motor, electrical backpack motor, due to cost. But we are going to have 2 boards to make sure we keep up with all the work that we've done with the backpack board. But in order to charge them, we need to add more circuits to our panel, electrical panel. And at present, the panel and the parking facility is completely out of service before, and add more outlets to our panel. So in order to do that, we have to get electrical panels and add more circuits so we can charge all the equipment that we state.
I would just say, you know, again, just reiterating that the village did, in enacting this ban, did give the park district a 2-year phase-in, which was appreciated. The park district is able, we knew that this is a good initiative, we want to be good neighbors, so we've been moving a little bit faster, again, and purchasing some of that equipment, and now we're working towards, you know, move to get us in, you know, really set in that direction by next year, and within 1 year fully. But we're already using it. I don't think you're using any gas-powered blowers anymore, are you, Len?
Not at this time.
At this time, so we're already there in moving that direction. And I think this, the upgraded panel can kind of help with the future as well. So the next thing is rechargeable, you know, edgers or, whatever, we'll be ready, to accommodate those as well.
Questions from anyone?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this question.
Go ahead.
Was this the only estimate, or were you able to get other estimates? or-
This was the estimate we got, and we worked with this electrician before, they're very good facilities. They're smaller and outfitted, so they tend to be much more reasonably priced rather than some of the larger ones. So we're
May I have a motion then to approve the quotes from Hinkle Electric Inc. in the amount of $6,740 to provide needed electrical panel installation and additional outlets to charge battery-powered equipment?
So, second?
Roll call, please.
Scott? Commissioner Greenfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Lane? Yes. Commissioner Reader?
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
President Wheeler?
Yes. Next up, I do like these, is the ordinance to be able to, for a declaration of surplus personal property. We're selling off stuff.
It's the bottom one, we're selling that stuff, the 2 boat motors, we either need to put the money into to repair or to sell and replace. These are no longer being sold or supported. So, it drops again with the yacht club, this is another shared cost. We're moving in that direction, replacing those, and then a lot of these, you can see the backpack blowers, again, that we're selling now as we're converting over to the electrical blowers. And it looks like the kayaks and paddleboards, were those for a program or something in the past that we purchased those, and then we don't longer use?
We don't use them. I don't know when it was, 2018, 2017? Yeah. We used to do rentals on paddleboards and kayaks. But these are pretty rough shape, so. Is that storage for the last 5 years? They're no longer, they've been some damage due to being stored outside, so they're no longer viable.
That red kayak and that green kayak, they sold it? You take no responsibility for how they look. All right, so we need a motion to approve, and Marcia, I'm going to turn to you for a minute, just a motion to approve the ordinance, right? Yeah. Okay, so a motion to approve the ordinance number 2023C of the Lakeville Park District Commissioner, or Board of Commissioners, for the declaration of surplus personal property and sale of same. So,
Second?
roll call, please.
Commissioner Greenfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Lane? Yes. Commissioner Reader?
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh? Yes. Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
President Wheeler?
Yes. And item letter H is one that we will hold over till our next meeting for the approval of the new committee member for the Finance Administration and Future Planning Committee. Right?
Oh, I thought we were going to do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, we are going to do tonight?
He was
Oh,
waiting
oh,
he was
oh,
waiting
I'm
to-
sorry, I
A
apologize.
little bit of background, I made the offer, or reached out last week, but as of Friday afternoon, I had not heard back. I heard back Saturday. John was nice enough to leave me a little bit of an out there, just in case we heard back this weekend, and we did. I interviewed a number of people, and made I guess a committee offer to Brian Martin. Brian is a resident of the community. He spent 15-ish years in the finance space, really the more technical aspect, helping companies with their infrastructure in the financial world. Recently switched into the pharma space, working for AbbVie, heading their AI and data science endeavors for that company. I thought it was a very unique background for the finance committee, but also to help us with any potential analytics that we may need in the future. So, with that in mind, are there any questions or comments?
I think that goes along with, because of the whole committee name is, finance, administration and future planning, so it seems to be a good fit with that.
That we find he's newer member to the community and really very enthusiastic about this. So.
Yep, and I forgot, he's helped out a handful of years with the high school business incubator program that we have in the program.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I would like to make a motion to appoint Brian Martin to the Committee of the Finance Administration and Future Planning.
Second. Roll call.
Commissioner Greenfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Lane? Yes. Commissioner Reader?
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh? Yes. Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
President Beeler?
Yes. Next to last on our agenda, written communications, community comments. We had the input of a resident, excuse me, I should say, a course resident regarding pickleball, so that's included in your packet.
I would just mention that I think that was maybe a misguided comment that was meant for the city of Lake Forest. They were, regarding the new pickleball, for basically asking them to double the number that they were putting in, which I heard they're doing. I think they are actually building more courts than originally planned, but we just left it in because they marked yes for the packet. It's for your information, but it really doesn't relate to our courts.
Is there anything further from correspondence or anything else?
That was it.
Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.